Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Vomit Forth, Terrified of God, out October 11th on Century Media Records. The album has 12 tracks, 27 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length studio album. They are an American death metal band. As you perhaps could understand from an album that has 12 songs, 27 minutes in length, the experience of this album as far as the design is concerned is going to be one that's going to feel very compact and very linear at the exact same time. It makes sense, not just because of length and number of songs, but because of the sound, the brutality of the sound of the band definitely allows these tracks to feel a little bit more close together. One of the elements that I thought was really interesting was the addition of little outros and little built-in intros into some of these tracks to help create some breaks, to help create some pauses. This definitely makes the album feel more fluid, more engaging, and breaks away that linearity that otherwise would give you almost the sense that you're listening to one single song that has 27 minutes in length. So interesting way of breaking down some elements within the design of the record, some elements within the design of the songs that definitely makes the overall record work a lot better from beginning to end. As far as the sound is concerned, I already mentioned this is a very brutal, heavy, death metal sounding album. The main surprise for me is that this is not a very dense sounding record. Normally when you have an album like this, and when you look at the design of the album, you almost always get a record that has a sense of density in its heaviness, a sense of density in its brutality, and it's more about how heavy it hits and not necessarily about what the different parts or the different elements within the sound are creating, the textures within them, the dynamics that they could offer. This record, for all of its brutality, for all of its aggression, for all of its intensity, it's not a dense album. It's easy to tell the elements apart, it's easy to see the impact of the guitars, the impact of the bass, and obviously the impact of the drums. So there is a certain level of production behind this album that minimizes some of the more core characteristics that a record like this would put forward. It's not very common for you to listen to an album that it's this heavy and hear the bass come in so predominantly in some of the songs, almost creating more of a grooviness behind the death metal sound of the band, allowing you to have some sonic breaks within the songs, so that not only the tracks from a design standpoint are breaking the linearity, the sound within the songs themselves is also breaking that same linearity. And I thought this was really important in creating a more defined, a more texturized sounding album, and not just concentrating on making a record that it's brutal for the sake of just being brutal. This record offers still that brutality, but it also offers a lot more than that. And you see it, like I said, across all the elements. I mentioned the bass and how much it pops on this record, adding some groove elements into the soundscape. But you could say the same thing about the guitars that create that main spinal cord of heaviness and chugginess, creating that steady bass line that helps connect these songs and helps keep you on focus, on path, and then breaking away from that chugginess with some more penetrating riffs, with some more interesting elements that really jolt or help jolt the tracks, the songs, giving them unique fingerprints outside of that commonality that spinal cord puts together on almost every single song on this record. Once you start talking about the drums, the drum sound on this record is really cool. I honestly love the texture that the drums offer the album. It's an element that merges really well with the heavier side of the guitars, but it has also its own place, its own room to breathe, its own room to grow and expand. So it's not just a drum sound that merges into the heaviness of the guitar sound, creating this big wall of sound coming at you. It does that quite often, but it doesn't do just that. So it offers more dynamics, it has a lot more movement, and within that movement, you're going to find the right texture to allow the drums to really come to the surface and be such a key element of the entire record. Once you get down to the vocals are dynamic, not overly dynamic, but they are dynamic. But for me, the vocal performance on this album is all about enhancing the aggression and brutality that the sound have. The sound is almost the catapult, and then the vocals is what you're propelling forward through that catapult. And I think that's the key idea that I walked away from this record with. I enjoyed the delivery. I enjoy the aggression in the delivery, and it's funny enough that for an album that it's this brutal and this heavy, the vocals still allow you to understand the lyrical content. They still allow you to grasp at the ideas of the album, the ideas of the songs. And anytime you can break away from a more brutal traditional approach where it's nearly impossible to understand what's going on and it becomes more sonically than lyrically, this album merges those two worlds very well. Sometimes the vocal delivery, it's more about the sonic delivery of those same vocals, and sometimes it's a little bit more texturized. I think that adds quality to the album as well, making this a solid record all around. We have to keep in mind this is the band's second album. I see a progression, I see growth in this album from an overall perspective. It's definitely a more mature sounding record. It's a record that has clear ideas, not only of how they wanted to execute the album, but what they wanted to get out of the album. And anytime you can create a record that offers clear ideas and allows the listener to see those ideas and understand those ideas, I think you have a winning formula on your hands. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Sacred Apple. Heavy track, drums and guitars, super heavy on this song, alternating some more fast movements that almost bulldoze you with some groovier experiences. This creates nice sonic ebbs and flows. The vocals are very consistent throughout. And there are some alternating moments within the vocal performance, but overall it feels very consistent. And it's a song that's all about the heaviness that it offers, the grooviness that it has, and those nice ebbs and flows that it creates. The sense of brutality that the song has does not change or does not waver one single bit just because you're inserting some more groovier pieces within the track. It's a very brutal song, both vocally and musically. Next you have Poison Child. I really enjoy this song. It's a great track that allows the guitars to be driven, but also cut through some of the heavier side of the sound. The drums are insane on this track. I think this is one of those tracks where the drums really shine, or they have a little bit more room to expand. They have a little bit more room to elaborate on everything that they want to do, on everything they can give to a song, and the vocals are a lot more dynamic on this track. But it's definitely a track that sells you on the drum sound. I feel like the drum sound, the bass popping in, adding some darkness to the song, but also adding some grooviness to the song, just creates a more textured song. It creates a song that's a lot richer, and it still allows itself to be heavy, to be brutal, to be powerful, but very textured underneath it. It has this surface of heaviness, but then very textured underneath it. The vocals adding that intensity and aggression that matches with the overall sonic design. Last but definitely not least, Fixation on the narrative. Now this track, it still has some pauses here and there or some slowing moments, but this song feels like an avalanche of sound. It just feels like it's coming at you fast and faster, almost having two speeds, really ripping through. The way the song chugs along with the guitars and drums, it's really interesting. There are, like I said, a few pockets of air, and you almost need that in order to better appreciate what the song has to offer, because it's a song that's just built on that intensity. It's just built on that aggression from a soundscape point of view, but from a vocal standpoint as well. So it feels like it's constantly on top of you. It's almost like every time you try to go up for air, it brings you right back down and drowning you in aggression, is drowning you in heaviness. So it's a very relentless song. It's not a long track, so that also helps the listener navigate through it a little bit better, but having a few pockets here and there doesn't hurt either. Vomit Forth with Terrified of God, out October 11th on Century Media Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.